Well, greetings and salutations, test takers. This is the Series 7 Guru, aka also known as Dean Tenney, with our always very special guest, the Test Geek himself, Brian Lee, managing member of Test Geek Exam Prep LLC. Tell us what series exam you're taking, where you're joining us from. If you do have a question, please tell us what exam it is, like, S7 or S65 or SIE with a capital Q, and then your question. And that'll help us decide at what depth the question needs to be answered, if at all, because different exams do have overlap, but the way they're tested are at different depths, different levels of understanding. So we'll take care of our housekeeping, and then we'll get underway. And so, boom, it looks like I got some reverb on my mic here. Maybe I might have to go even to a headset here. I think I told you how we'd like the questions. If you are looking for a free supplement, the best free supplement to your paid study materials is my YouTube channel. It's organized by playlist. So you find the SIE, and I have 3 playlists for you. I have lectures, I have practice tests and practice questions. I have a podcast episode. I'm thinking about moving the podcast series to the front and making that playlist one so you can kind of watch the podcast. Brian and I did one that's been very popular for series 65 and 66. And I'm thinking, Brian, I might change it and say, wait, why don't you watch those first? Kind of put a dent in all the material, cover to cover. If you're looking for a particular topic, use the channel search bar. It's okay, but I get aggravated when somebody asks me, like, Dean, do you have a video on Quadro? Before you ask me, just go to channel or search bar, put QDRO in, and 4 videos will come up. Or, Dean, have you made a video on margin? If you put margin in there, 15 videos come up. So, if it's a particular topic you're looking for, if you're not looking to binge, then use the channel search bar. We have various Guru Nation communities. We have our Facebook community, Baby Brokers Doing Hat Tricks on Facebook. We're coming up on 400 members already. Great motivation. If you're a Facebook fan, that's the community for you. We have Reddit communities. We have our Series 7 for SIE and Series 7. We have subreddit R66 for 63, 65, 66. And we have our Series 24 for 9, 10s, and 24s. If you're looking for a paid supplement, I think it's not a time to be frugal. If you have the resources, now's the time to invest in yourself. And I think the best combination of paid supplements would be a Kaplan Q Bank, and Brian has been kind enough to give us a 20% discount on his all-in video series, which is nice because, I have 950 videos. Brian has distilled it. He only has videos that cover the top topics cover to cover on the test itself. And with that 20% discount, I think you get your videos, you get the PDF, all in about $100. Kaplan Q Bank's about $50, so $150. The other thing that Brian has is a PDF. It has a practice exam, and I think it has the strongest correlation to actual test than any other practice test. So that alone is worth, I think, some money. Listen, Brian has offered that as a PDF, as a separate a la carte with discount, about $20. Everybody who takes us up on that, well, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people send Brian $20, 20 plus, whatever. He sends them a PDF. It's just a PDF. I don't think we ever told you it was anything other than that, but it comes with the rationales. I find it very. If you miss it, we are later on. You can watch this as a reading. I'm teaching. If you go to, I put it in the pendant. The comment. Let me go here. And if you go to my booking page, there it is. My booking page. I have a couple of things. Tonight, there's a live stream overtime session. It blanks out at 10. So we get 10 or more, then it automatically disappears from the booking page. But if you want to join us for that, you're welcome to. We also have several courses coming up. We have an economics evening course for, I think it's $30-40. We have basic options on Thursday evening. We have a mutual fund lecture coming up. So check out the booking page. If you buy a course, an evening course, that opens up or unlocks office hours. My office hours are free to paid students. That is a $225 value because that's what I charge for an hour. All right, let's see what we got going on here in the comment section. Whoop, I got to start at the top here.
Yeah.
Hi, Dean. Would you be able to review slobs over bliss? Christina, I have an entire video, many of them on that. So I'll give you the brief overview, and then I will link to a video that goes over that. So we have various memory aids for the exams. And I think one of the best memory aids we have on the exam is slobs over bliss. And what that memory aid is designed to do, Christina, is remind us where we place orders in relationship to the current market price. So what slobs over bliss, the middle line is the current market price of the security. So Christina, today, last time I checked, Apple was at $228 a share. So if I'm your broker and you want to sell Apple at your price or more, I'm not sure what you're getting. Test 1, 2, 3. Test 1.
Yeah.
Are you getting reverb, Brian?
No, you're breaking up, but just a tad.
Huh. Crazy. Let me try.
Might have to do your headphones.
I hate that. I know.
I know you do.
Let me just check real quick. Audio, microphone. How about now? Test 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me, Brian?
Yeah.
Is that better?
No. Now it sounds like you're in a bathroom.
Okay, let's try one more time. I haven't hooked up my headset up, so oh well, we'll just put up with it for tonight. I apologize, folks. We'll get this situation handled. Reduce mic background. I got that. Cancellation. Okay, there we go. All right, so market orders have no contingency, no qualifier, Christina. If you tell me to buy Apple at the market, I call you, give you a report. But if you want to sell it at your price or more, you're going to put your sell limit above the current market price, hence slobs over bliss. Sell limits. If you want to put in a buy stop, that too would be above the current market price. By the way, whether it's a buy stop that turns into a market order, buy stop that turns into a limit order, it goes above the market. If you want to sell Apple on a sell stop or a buy limit, you want to buy it for less than 228. The buy limit goes below the current market price, as well as a sell stop market, sell stop limit. And so that's what slobs and bliss is about, where we place orders in relationship to the current market price. I will link to a video for that. Brian, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, before, because we get this question 84 times a month, right?
Right.
For all the exams, 7, 65, 66. And what I always do, especially in my tutoring sessions, I first start, because that's just the kind of guy I am, I start with the basic definitions of these three first, before I actually go into slobs and bliss.
Yeah, me too.
Right? And then, again, slobs and bliss, I believe, now this is the test geek talking again, it should also go with 2 other bits of information. Using it on its own can sometimes be problematic. So I want to know if the investor owns or wants to own, and I want to know what their market attitude is. With these 2 things, that then can take me exactly where I need to be on slobs and bliss. That's just how I teach it.
Yeah, I love it. We use stops to, there's 3 uses of the stops: to stop a loss, protect a profit, or establish a stock position, right? So I love Brian's comment about market attitude, right? So if I'm a technical practitioner, for example, and I think the stock's going to break through the resistance, I'm bullish, and I would use a buy stop, right? If I'm a technical analyst, I'm worried about it going through the support line, I use a sell stop. I love it, Brian. Good job.
Yeah, if you own it, that means pretty much it's going to tell you what the transaction is going to be.
Yeah, you're going to either stop the loss or protect the profit, indeed.
Right. And if they want to own, well, obviously. So that will tell you half of it. That's going to tell you the transaction part of it, whether it's a buy or a sell.
I would just broaden that out, Brian, to say how many people are you trying to memorize things rather than understand them.
Right.
And if you understand them, then you don't have to memorize as much stuff. And then the memory aids, I'm with Brian on his whole concept that the memory aids become more easily accessible to you
That's right.
if you first understand things, right?
That's
So
right. That's why I start with those definitions. Absolutely.
Option tricks, very much the same way.
Yeah.
Hello, Dean. I have a Series 7 question. When asked about volatility, is a convertible bond more volatile than a zero coupon bond? Vendors are providing me with different answers. Well, I would say that the zero.
You just cut out and froze up. That sounds like an internet issue. I think what Dean was about to say was the zero coupon in most cases is almost always the most volatile. I very rarely see it being compared.
Am I back?
There you are. You're back.
Hey, listen, guys, it's 120 in Vegas and everybody's got on their air. And so I've been having internet issues all day long in Vegas. I'll be back off grid tomorrow. I'm sorry, Brian. I am back. I don't know where you were in the discussion. I would have said the zero coupon bond is going to be more volatile because the convertible does have a little bit of an income stream. As Sakati, anybody who tells you it's the convertible bond would have to make an argument about the volatility of the stock and that this thing is already in and it's just not there. I don't even think this is on the test, but I would go with the zero. What do you think, Brian?
That's exactly what I just said. The zero is almost always the most volatile, and the convertible generally isn't because people are more concerned with the stock, not the bond. Yeah. And on the test, it almost never compares a zero with.
Yes. Yeah, no, there's certain questions. We had one the other day where it's more of a test prep vendor issue than it is a real actual test issue. Well, right, Shannon, we're sending you good vibes. I have a Brian dump or a brain dump? Oh, brain dump. Practice, right, memorize. Should I spend time prior to the test dumping it? I find I'm recalling it effortlessly. Well, then you're ready to go. Brian has what he calls his cheat sheet. So I'm hoping that your brain dump approximates Brian's cheat sheet or Kaplan's quick sheets. I don't think 65, 66 NASA exams in general lend themselves to a data dump sheet as much as the FINRA exams do.
That's correct.
So, people ask me about data dump. I think it's a personal choice. Yep. If it's a crutch and it makes you feel good, get your brain in the flow, go for it. But I think on NASA exams, that's a little tougher to come up with a cheat sheet, data dump, whatever you want to call it. I spent a week timing myself. Oh, Shannon, I love you. I get so frustrated with test takers who don't time themselves. And then after they pass the test, or in fact, fail the test, even worse, say they had a time constraint. And I say, okay, well, how did that happen? Because if you had a time constraint, that means you didn't set the timer when you're doing your simulations. This is particularly an issue on 63 because that thing is pretty short. So make sure you do exactly like Shannon. Time yourself. You also, it's helpful because you get your brain into a rhythm of what it feels like to do X number of performance opportunities and the time allocated. Love it. Love it. Yeah, I just think that's a great thing to do, right? That's what that test simulations, one of the purposes of doing practice tests. The other danger, Shannon, that I get so aggravated with is people who don't do practice tests. I mean, they just don't do them. They do, quizzes, and I ask them what their score is. I go, Dean, I'm doing like 80 on my quizzes. I go, well, where's your practice test? Now, you don't need to start doing practice tests till you're about 7-10 days out, but then you certainly need to do at least a couple, 2, 3, 4, not more than one a day. Remember, don't do more than one a day. You got to remediate. But Shannon, I love that. I think you're in good shape. Taking the SIE. So Creighton, if you're taking the SIE, I'm teaching a 3-day SIE class right now, and tomorrow's our last day. Thursday, I'm doing a simulated exam, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to have permission from that test taker to share that on the channel. It's one of the favorite things we do on the channel. So if you're taking the SIE, be looking maybe Friday, Saturday for a SIE, a shared screen practice test with her and I. We hit pause. She tells me what she thinks, And then, she answers and I say, no, I didn't kidding. I say, sorry, wrong, or good job or whatever the case is. So expect a new SIE practice test. I think we're going to create an STC practice test. We got a couple Kaplans up there. So I think I'll do an STC one. Taking the 66 Monday, I'm nervous because my first couple of practice exams were not the best. Well, Trina, again, when you're in the chat, it's your private information, so I get it. But we can't be helpful when it's not the best. We need a score. What was not the best? Because sometimes Brian tell me not the best, and then they tell me they got like an 85. Like, you're ridiculous. They say, Dean, not the best, and it's a 50. I go, ooh, that's a problem, right? So you don't have to share your personal business in chat. But Trina, I would be interested in knowing what is that score that you think is not the best. Let me comment on that score. If that's in the mid 70s, I think you're fine. You just need to keep practice, drilling, rehearsing, finish strong, keep grinding, stay the course. If you're below 70, you are at risk. I didn't say you're not going to pass. There are all kinds of people who score 60 to 70 on practice tests and still pass. I would like you to have a margin of safety. And the margin of safety is a higher score on those practice tests. I'm not saying 80 is not good. Obviously, 80's better than 75, but mid 70s. I think some test prep vendors, some corporate trainers, I think are a little ridiculous because they terrify and scare people and tell them they got to get like 90 or 95, which is ridiculous. And I actually think you're more at risk if that's the case, because that means you're just memorizing questions. You're like B, D, C, C, B. So that's my thought. Brian, your thought on practice test scores?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Mid 70s has always been your and my kind of barometer. Everybody wants to score into the 80s, but actually that's fairly rare. Yeah. And of course, we have the risk that people start memorizing the Kaplan or STC questions, and that just won't go come testing. Yes. It's nothing like it.
That's right. You got to have an understanding of the concepts. So we're not taking practice tests to learn. We're taking practice tests to do an intellectual inventory and get a mark. That's the purpose of the practice test. But Trina, again, I'm going to give you kudos just like I did Shannon. You're on a Tuesday, you're a week out, you're doing practice tests. I think regardless of those scores, I like where you're at because you're finding out now there's time for remediation, there's time for improvement. Yep. And a lot of times, Trina, people wait a little too late and then there's no course correction that can be taken. So I think you're in a good spot. If you want to share your scores, feel free to do so. If not, that's fine too. 65, Tanya, Carson, California. Woo! I used to drive by Carson all the time. Last time I drove for Carson was about 4 weeks ago. So 65, investment advisor representative. So what can we help you with? Anything we can help you with? Any content questions? We do like to have fun and fellowship. If we have too much fun and too much fellowship and we don't talk about content, Brian gets a little upset. He's like, I don't think the purpose of our live streams is to shoot the shit, as we say in the Marine Corps. I'm teasing me. He likes having fun with the best of us. Dynamic duo. There we go. We're going to get secret decoder rings. Banana Boy, thanks. You are welcome. You're welcome. 66 second time, feeling way more confident. There you go. Confidence is so important. I mean, confidence, I think, is worth about 10 points. And I always tell people, you got to be confident in your study effort. You got to be confident in yourself. And most importantly, you got to be confident in your answers, Lindsay, on Friday. I had a guy, Brian, missed it today by 1 point. And I asked him, did he change answers?
Oh, no.
He said he did.
No.
Yeah. And then, Brian, what he said to me is that he knew he was changing wrong ones to right ones. I said, well, listen, my friend, you can tell me that, but next time you do a practice test, do me a favor. Take your make note of ones you change and see how many right or wrong. Your last response is your best response. So I love that you're feeling more confident. I always joke, Lindsay, I don't know what your first score is, but when people miss the mark, like this guy got missed by 1 point, I teased and I told him, I said, well, you went in the cave, you saw the dragon, you got a good look at him, he's got you, but you'll get him next time, right? So you'll get him next time. 2 weeks, Seattle, Washington, Brian's neck of the woods, the Northwest. He's in Vegas. You can tell when Brian's in Vegas on the whiteboard. If it's in aluminum, it's glitzy. That means it's Las Vegas. Brian told me to do this, right? Good teacher that he is. If it's his wood dry erase board, you think timber, you think Northwest. So he's in Vegas today. 2 weeks, Justin. Any how you doing? We're scoring. What's going on? 65. Lots of 65, 66s. Sunny South Florida here. John, I love Florida, but I can't handle hot and sticky. So even though it's 100, I don't know, what is it here today? 117 in Las Vegas. It's a dry heat. It's not hot and sticky. Retaking the SIE, confirming that the contribution is over 250. The consequence is, well, that is the rule G. What is it? 37, I believe. The maximum campaign contribution I can make to a politician is 250. I have to be able to vote for that person. If I violate the rule, then I'm in the penalty box and can't do competitive underwritings, or excuse me, negotiated underwritings for 2 years. I think on the SIE, they don't go to that depth at all. It's just the $100, which is the gift or gratuity that we can play. One member firm can play to another, and the 250. So it's a recognition question on the SIE.
And I think it's about jurisdiction. You have to be able to vote for.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Because otherwise, it's called pay to play, right? You're trying to, figure out how to get some money underwriting. In general, I would say most of the SIE is recognition. There's very little practical application. Yeah, you're gonna have to do current yields. You're gonna have to do stock splits. You might have to do conversion ratio, not parity. There's some math, very light, and almost no judgment. So recognition, practical application, judgment, it's primarily recognition. 2 weeks, review mode, there you go. How to best review and solidify the knowledge. I believe that what you should do is continue to be diversified in your activities. So not only do your practice exams and remediation, but continue to read, to lay base, continue to watch videos, to continue to lay base. I call that base knowledge. And so that's the way I would solidify. Practice test, remediation of practice test, no more than one a day. Continue with your study activities, which is reading and videos, and still do quizzes on areas where you're weak. Go back and reinforce those areas. Brian, you got any comments on that one?
Yeah, absolutely. With the 2 week window, right? We have still roughly a week of review. Textbook, Dean's videos, my videos, if you have them, right? You want that reinforcement. That's what helps retain that stuff. The more you see it, the more you smell it, right? The easier it's retained. So continue that review. The diversification Dean just mentioned, textbook, video, practice quizzes, right? And then the 7 to 10 days, we want to hit those simulated exams, remediation, all those sorts of things. Absolutely.
Right on. Good spot. You're in a good spot. I always joke, Brian, that study effort, study plans are like options. They're a wasting asset. Time value erodes.
That's right.
And so what happens is when your study plan, the timeline starts to collapse on you. And you want to make sure that you understand that. And that at 7 and 10 days out, you're like, okay, it's go time. It's go time.
There's a reason why Dean and I are simpatico on so many of these things, because they are the absolute best practices on how to approach, how to study, how to remediate, how to evaluate this. There is a set process. And oftentimes the guys at work, they're saying, here's a textbook, good luck.
Yeah. Right? Even the people not at work, Brian, listen, you can do it your own way. I mean, if you want, I don't know why you want to reinvent the wheel. But, Brian and I have helped literally thousands of people pass these exams.
We've cleaned that road for you, man.
So I wonder, I wonder when people choose not to listen. I told you, I love willful people. I'm one myself, but, you don't want to be willful about when the path to passing and getting your P, as Brian calls me, I call it making your mark. It's not something people haven't done. So do try as much as possible to go with best practice. I told you the guy who missed it by 1 point today. I love him. He's he's a high-end guy. He's very successful, but he just doesn't listen. So he's telling me, how he's going to do things, and I'm saying, listen, I know you don't want to hear from your tutor this, but you need to slow down a little bit, right? Well, thank you. We do enjoy what we do. I mean, I get an immense amount of gratification when, sometimes, Brian and I will be somewhere, or I'll be there somewhere. I'm sure Brian has had this happen before. And, somebody will pick up my tab or something. And I'll say, well, who is that? And it's somebody who we helped many years ago, who's passed their exams and making good living, taking care of their family, living a good life. And boy, it's always neat to be there at the beginning of that journey with folks and help them get through this first, challenge of the testing the rite of passage, so to speak. As I always say, if you're poor and you deserve to be rich, our securities industry is for you. I'm not going to make it be easy. I mean, the learning curve there's a very, very steep learning curve. And again, whether it's Brian and I, if we can just get that learning curve like this by following best practice, and then when you're done with us, best practice at your firm, and get that learning curve to be a little bit gentler slope, I'm excited for you. I'm excited about your future in our industry. I guess we lost the guy. Were you here, Brian? I don't know if you were here on that live stream where the guy showed up and was complaining about the securities industry. And I had to tell him, hey, I very rarely kick people off a live stream, but I might have to kick you off. These are people who like it. Have you considered separating the test outline in its own playlist? I'm not sure what you mean by that, Micheline. I'm not sure what you mean. The test explication, are you talking about 66 and putting it in a playlist called explication? Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Send me an email at dean@guruexamprep.com. And I think that's a great idea. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. There's a couple that would be helpful for me too, because there's a couple sections I'd like to redo there. So I'm going to have another Micheline 66, where I'm going to do a whole 66 playlist based on the study guide. And maybe Brian will want to help me out and do it with me. We'll see.
Sure.
Marcel, our favorite. I've got bad news for you. If you're here to win the drawing at the end of our live stream, it's always bad to see Marcel show up, because this guy is a winner. I don't know how many of our drawings he's won. I think I owe him like 6 hours of something, right? So Marcel is going to be joining us. I think he said August 13th, Marcel. And we are going to take you to dinner, reciprocity. So I can't wait to see you, get caught up, see how you're doing.
I am in town that week.
Perfect. So Brian can join us. And Marcel, listen, I have never met anybody from Louisiana whose fellowship I don't enjoy. There's something about when I go to Louisiana or they come here, just always good people.
That's funny. I've got one with Iowa, of all places. I have never met anyone from Iowa I did not thoroughly enjoy.
Midwest thing.
Yeah,
I think I haven't met anybody from Iowa. What a town. There's a firm. Who would think it? There's a place called in Iowa. You've probably been there, Brian. Cambridge Research. Have you been there before?
No, I've not.
Cambridge Research is a surprisingly large broker dealer outside of Iowa. I think it's I want to say Lafayette, Iowa. But anyways, it's like you land in Des Moines. It's like 2 hours, and I love the town because it's like build it and they will come. Their corporate campus, which is quite large, is in the middle of these cornfields, about 5 blocks. But anyways, my GPS went down, and I rolled down my window. Welcome to Iowa, and I said, "Hey, do you know how to get to Cambridge for research?" They go, "Oh yeah, just go over the railroad tracks, make a right, make a left." Kentucky. Go Wildcats, man! I'll tell you, Kentucky has some great fans. One of my best buddies is a Kentucky alum. I'm taking the 66 tomorrow. Well, make sure you get some rest. If you're in Kentucky, what is it? It's 8:30. You should make sure you're well rested. You want to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Brian, I know what question 52 is, Christy. Do you know what question 52 is on your?
Not off the top of my head, no. If she sends me an email, I'd be more than happy.
There you go. So let me put I think I made a banner for your email. Let me see if I got that there. Brian, did I get it right this time, Brian? Is that it?
I'm looking up the final exam. Brian at testgeekexamprep. Yep, that's it.
Okay, so Christy, send Brian an email, and he's more than happy to look at 52 and talk to you about it. By the way, Brian is always willing to discuss his content with you. So, Brian, I get people who want to talk about your stuff, and I go, just reach out to Brian. It's not my job to defend Brian's content. He's proud of his content. It's good content, and he's more than happy to discuss that with you. I will certainly tell Mom hello, Marcel. She always is asking about you. Daniel, what is the tested regarding discounted cash flow and the dividend discount model? Well, it's very testable. Brian has a nice video. Let me make a note. Let's see, 30, 40. We will link to both Brian's discounted cash flow video and my discounted cash flow video as well. Daniel, it's a valuation technique. It's a valuation technique to come up with the fair value of an investment that has income streams. So, Daniel, the classical example that almost everybody uses, and I always use Brian because not only is Brian a test geek, he's a math geek. And I say, hey, Brian, I just won the lottery. They've offered me $1 million today or $100,000 a year for the next 15 years. And Brian, I kind of recognize this is a math problem. And so I'd like you to help me solve it. I'd like you to tell me whether I should take the $1 million or whether I should take the $100,000 payment. So what Brian is going to do is say, okay, well, the first premise, $100,000 this year is worth more than $100,000 15 years from now. And so what we're going to try and do is figure out what is the present value of 15 payments of $100,000, right? So Brian calls me up using the inputs to do that. He says, Dean, the present value of 15 payments of 100,000 is $1.1 million. I go, ooh, it sounds like I should take the payments. If he calls me up and says, Dean, the present value of 15 payments of 100,000 is 900,000, I will take the lump sum. Now, we use this for bonds, Daniel. So bonds have payments. So if I have an 8% bond maturing in 10 years, that's going to be 20 payments of $40. And again, I'm going to do discounted cash flow, say, okay, what is the present value of that? What I'm looking for is to have positive net present value. What that means is I do the math. The present value is the bond is 110. I can get it for 108. Woohoo! Found a free lunch. So it's not can you do discounted cash flow. It's do you recognize the inputs, the number of compounding periods, number of payments, the interest rate we're going to assume, and then can you come up with this idea of net present value, positive or negative, positive being good. Now, dividend discount model, same thing. I think of Mr. Buffett here. Bank of America pays him 21 cents a quarter. Right now, he owns 1 billion shares. He got 700 million shares directly from Bank of America in a pipe, and he bought another $300 million shares in the secondary market for a total of $1 billion. And Mr. Buffett likes to say, okay, what is the present value of the future dividends I'm receiving? Right? Again, we're trying to do valuation. We can use PE as a valuation, book value as a valuation. Some parts is called discounted cash flow. So discounted cash flow is applied to a stock is called the dividend discount model, right? And then based on that, Mr. Buffett does his math. He says the present value of the future value or the present value of Bank of America dividends is $40. And I can get Bank of America for 38. I think I'll buy some more. Present value is 40. Bank of America is 42. Now, Bank of America, test question, you can't apply to a stock that doesn't pay a dividend. Right? So you can't apply discounted cash flow, dividend discount model to a stock with no dividend. Now, the Bank of America's dividend, Daniel, used to be 18 cents a quarter. Now it's 21 cents a quarter. I do not have material non-public information, but I'd be willing to bet you that when Bank of America's board raises the dividend, it's going to go to 24 cents. So Mr. Buffett, Daniel, can make the assumption, if he chooses to to say when I'm doing my discounted cash flows applied to a stock, I'm going to make an assumption that the dividend is going to grow. And then the test question there, Daniel, 2 test questions. That will result in a higher valuation of Bank of America if we assume the dividend is growing. Second test question, can apply it to preferred stocks because the dividend is fixed. Brian, would you like to add to that? It's another one Brian, we get all the time, don't we? We get this every Tuesday night.
I know. No math on the test. They're point and shoot questions. There's no math on this. You might have to know what the formula, the inputs and outputs look like for dividend discount model if you're doing the 66. Maybe even the 65, but there's no math. You don't have to really do any math for this. Just recognize that little formula.
Think test prep vendors, Brian, do such a disservice to people because they make them think that this math is there. The guy today who missed it by 1 point didn't use his calculator once. So 2-3 times. The math on the 65, 66 is primarily arithmetic division. And it's more balance sheet stuff like, dividend payout ratio, current ratio, that kind of stuff than it is discounted cash flow, right? So, or my favorite one, I love in test prep vendors, Ryan, have somebody do some outrageous calculation. And then they say, well, you may not see this on your exam.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Then don't bother me with it.
Cool. You use my discount. The discount code for all Kaplan products and services is Guru15 at checkout. That gives you a 15% discount. I told you, Brian, it's Guru20. It's a 20% discount. So thank you so much. Testing much higher on Kaplan than Past Perfect. That doesn't surprise me on the Series 10, particularly Banana. Past Perfect on all their. Now, first, let me say this. It's always better to have too much than not enough. So I would rather that a test prep vendor is fat than a test prep vendor is skinny. But boy, Past Perfect, they just get in the weeds. I mean, Brian and I can almost tell it's a Past Perfect question when people ask for help and they send us a question. I can almost say, oh, this is Past Perfect. So I'm glad you got the Kaplan Q Bank. I always believe that you should supplement, particularly 9, 10s, and 24s, so you can get confirmation of the test issues, right? So when you're doing your Kaplan, you say, oh, Past Perfect has a question on this, Kaplan has a question on this, confirmation, that's on the exam. Yeah, I don't know, Banana. I'm having audio issues. I think I disappeared for a couple of seconds. I truly believe I have the best internet connection money can buy, Banana. But at the end of the day, it's still Cox cable and it's Las Vegas. And when we have these heat things, things get, wobbly. I don't know if it's all the kiddies coming home. So I apologize for the reverb. I'll be working on that. And Brian's right. I have a headset. I just don't have it plugged into this computer. So next Tuesday, I guess I'm just going to have to start wearing a headset all the time. Or get rid of Brian. Maybe Brian's making the reverb. Hey, Dean took the Series 7, Jonas, and passed. There you go. Woo! Wait, we haven't got done this yet today. We ring the bell. For whom the bell tolls, it tolls for victorious test takers like Jonas. In Clarence in the Wonderful Life, he says when the bell rings, angels get their wings. So in our live stream, somebody has passed. That's great, Jonas. We'll see you on the 66. I got one thing for you, Jonas. Make sure you respect the 66. I don't want to give you any negative vibes, but we have all kinds of Series 7 test takers. You should feel good. You pass your 7. You got a little bit of what the Greeks call hubris going. You're thinking, and then you see some information that you saw in your 7. You go, I know this stuff. Today, Brian, the weakest category for the guy who missed it was investments. Yeah. And
how many times have I told people that? Investments.
And he doesn't want me to hear it. I told him he doesn't want me to hear it, but I say, okay, so you missed investments. There's different stuff on that 66. So, Jonas, I'm sure you're going to pass, but like I say, respect that. How about the 24 live on Thursday nights? Listen, my friend, I already do all kinds of stuff for free. And no, I don't see any universe in which Dean is going to be doing live streams for 24 on a Thursday night. I have other things to do. I would tell you, I just released today on the channel a replay of a Series 24 tutoring session on financial and operations, fiscal responsibility. You can check that out. That's available. Brian and I do answer 24 content questions in this live stream. This live stream is for all exams, including 9, 10, and 24. So, well, as they say, what you don't get if you don't ask. So I appreciate you asking. But hey, don't forget, you can also buy tutoring. It's $225 an hour. So if you want to spend a Thursday night with me, just go to the booking page and book an hour on Thursday night, and it'll be you and I. And you can share that if you'd like. If you want to have 2 or 3 24s join us, feel free to do so. How about you, Brian? You want to do a live stream on Thursday night for 24?
No.
Does that speak to you?
No. Don't forget my closeouts and buy-ins.
Oh, yeah.
On my YouTube channel.
This sounds silly. This really sounds silly. Me, 1522. I'm totally serious. Over the years, right, 24s get freaked on buy-ins and sellouts. And I refer them to Brian's video. In fact, I'll post it in the video description. Buy-ins, sellouts. He has a video for free on his Test Geek. So don't forget, Brian has a free YouTube channel, and his free YouTube channel has some good stuff. And the thing that here he has a video that many 24s have told me is life-changing. Literally, I mean, crying. They watch this video. Oh, like the Red Sea has parted. The Enlightenment has taken place. So I will link to that. And if you're struggling on 24 with buy-ins and sellouts, Brian's video is by far the best thing out there on that. It's so good that I was thinking about making one, and I just watched his video. And every time I watch, I go, nah, yeah, why reinvent the wheel? I totally believe in comprehension and memorization. I always say that if you understand things, then you don't have to fill up your brain with the memory work. But it's a fork in the road. When I don't know about you, Brian, when I start teaching options, I say, okay, now you're at a fork in the road here with options. You hit one. If you go down this side of the fork, then you're going to start memorizing all kinds of things. Call up, put down, cow, put, bulls. If you go down the other fork, understanding it, you understand contract specifications, you can track money, you get 100 options, you don't need to memorize anything. I think they're not mutually exclusive. In other words, I would use the memory aid as we discussed earlier, and I think I did a great job opening up a bigger topic. But he was saying that the slobs over bliss is more useful if you have an understanding of the types of orders themselves. And then we broadened it out. I don't know when you joined us in the live stream, but I then expanded and say, Brian, I think that applies to a lot of content. That if you, have the understanding, the comprehension, then your memory aids do become a better tool for you, because when you're using them, how you're using them. And so I agree with you. I believe in comprehension over memorization.
Well, we all do, I think. But if I may be the devil's advocate here, we have a compressed time frame. We all have these test dates. Our boss says, I got to do this in 60 days. I got to do this in 90 days. That's the dilemma. Comprehension versus memorization, right? I mean, if you can comprehend everything that's in the Series 7 in 45 days, God bless you, right? But there's so much content in the 65. Oh, my goodness. How much? So, you have to wait.
Brian, I totally I agree with this too. I even in class today in the SIE, when we got the options, I said, listen, this is what makes your SIE kind of challenging. You have to make editorial decisions on your own. I can make a recommendation to you, but at the end of the day, as I always say, it's a buffet. Right. I said, of the 3 or 4 questions on options on the SIE, 3 of the 4 of the 5 are recognition. Right. Like, when do options expire? When does the option agreement have to be back? What's the difference between American and European styles? There may be one strategy question, maybe a hedge or basic option, intrinsic value. And so how much time do you want to devote to that? I usually say, if you're going on to your 7, then I think it's worth trying to lay a little bit more groundwork to get those 3 or 4 option questions on your SIE, because then you go into your 7 with some base. If you're taking a 6, you're not going to see any of this ever again. So maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you do when you get a strategy question, you just want to guess B and assign it to the universe. The 7 is the same way. And what I mean by that is, how many times, Brian, have we tried to warn people that they're going down a rabbit hole? And so, I had a person today, and he's trying to say that a floor trader and a floor broker are the same things. I go, they're not. A floor broker is acting as an agent for customers of the firm. A floor trader is representing the firm itself. But I said, at the end of the day, who cares? Right. Because we're not, all we need to know is a floor broker executes orders for clients and member firms. I don't know why you're making this a bigger deal than it needs to be. So just be careful about that. If you're going to go down the comprehension thing, at least don't do it in stuff that you don't need to comprehend. That's not on the test. So. The way I say it is, make sure you're staying on the broad avenues and highways.
Exactly. Because again, we don't want to overcomplicate and overanalyze this stuff to death, where you start interjecting stuff that's not even in the test question.
Right up.
It's a really fine line between the two. It really is.
Yeah. So the next question we have, Brian, is, we get this all the time too. What's the difference between strategic asset allocation and sector rotation? Oh. Sector rotation is not strategic. It's aggressive. It's tactical.
That is correct.
Strategic is longer term. It's more efficient, and it has a lower cost structure. As I always say, the test is prejudicial. They prefer strategic asset allocation because of what we just said: lower cost structure, more tax efficiency. If you do sector rotation and you miss it a couple of times, you're going to get crunched financially, right? I always think of the pandemic. There were aggressive asset allocators not doing asset allocation, but sector rotation, rotating out of stocks like hospitality into stocks that would do well during the pandemic. And the first time they rotated in, they did good, but then the pandemic ended up being 2 years, and they rotated out in a year. Oh, pandemic's still here. And then, lost a bunch of money. So sector rotation is aggressive and is tactical. Strategic asset allocation is passive, lower cost structure, and more tax efficient. Brian, you want to add anything to that? We get this one all the time too.
That's right. Strategic asset allocation, remember, is relying upon the same asset class allocation: stocks, bonds, cash equivalents, that kind of thing. Where the sector rotation is going to, just like Dean said, tactically, based on economic market conditions, will change. For example, if you're going into an expansive economic cycle, you're going to start getting into manufacturing and those sorts of things. If it's going into a recession area, you're going to get more defensive with foods and pharmaceuticals. So it's much more tactical. Utilities based on economic.
Yeah, I would know defensive stocks are stocks that deliver products and services resilient to the business cycle. That definitely is on the test.
That's it.
How many practice exams do you suggest? Well, everybody's different. Yeah, everybody's different. So I usually, Tanya, if I were a corporate trainer, I'm not, but if I was, I would sit down with you and 7-10 days out, say, Tanya, how many practice tests should I expect scores on? If you told me like 10, I'm going to say, no. It's too much. 7-10 days out, I think 4 or 5 would be on the low end of what I would expect. 7, 8 on the high end, somewhere in there. Everybody's a little different. I would add, depending on your scores. If your scores aren't good, well, then we got to be a little more aggressive on trying to get those marks up. Right? Not through doing more practice tests, but through, remediation. So, Brian, do you think there's a number? I don't think there's a magic.
The practice exam is not an end to itself.
Yeah.
That's what you have to remember. A lot of people say, how many practice finals do I have to do? That's not the end game. The practice final is to determine where you are in the process. The performance tracker then identifies and isolates the weak areas so that you can remediate and gain some points through those. Then you retest, and then you do the performance tracker to remediate the weak areas. So it's a process, just like everything else in this thing is, right? It's not an end game in itself. It's evaluate, remediate, evaluate, remediate. How much time do you have to do that in 7 to 10 days? 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, under no circumstances should you be doing more than one practice test today. And, we have some people who do a disservice, and some of them are even corporate trainers who want to see as many practice as I want 4 today. I want 3 tomorrow. Total disservice. So, make sure you're doing what we're suggesting, which is getting your mark, doing your intellectual inventory based on that intellectual inventory from doing the practice test, remediation, another practice test. So, I don't think I have a hard number. I would say if I were your corporate trainer or accountability partner, somebody could fire you. I would want a minimum of 4. And Brian's is really good. I always tell Brian, if you buy Brian's PDF, I always tell them to use that as their last mark, because that'll give you kind of strong correlation, good news or bad news, right? You can take that mark and know what to expect on your test date, which I think is a great value to kind of know whether you just need to stick the landing or you still got some issues that need to be worked on. So I don't have an ideal number. I would tell you this, and I think this is an area where Brian and I disagree a little bit. If I was a person who could fire you and you miss your mark, and I'm looking for a reason to keep you and give you another shot at it, or say, you know what, this just isn't going to work. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my admin, and I'm going to go backstage and see what your QBank usage rate is. And almost always when people miss the mark, they have a low QBank usage rate. And I would think that you should be, and I ask people, what's your QBank usage rate? I had somebody telling you who missed their mark, and I asked them what their QBank usage rate, it was 20%. That's ridiculous. That's nowhere near enough questions, right? So I would just add to that. Again, no magic number on QBank usage rate. Now, I'm a guy, when I do study, one of my goals is I may not get it, is to exhaust whatever QBank I've been given for that exam. That may not be possible, but if it's Kaplan and it's a 7 and there's 3,600 questions and I'm got 30 days, that means I need to be at a pace of doing X number of practice questions a day. 120. Yeah, we set a record Sunday. I don't think, do we send a record today? I don't think we sent a record today.
I'm inside, so I don't care.
I agree. I'd memorize stuff on the text. Starting over. There you go. There you go. How many questions in the Kaplan QBank should I hit? As many as possible, John. As many as possible.
That's the $160,000 question. The difference between Dean and I is I don't think you have to exhaust 3,600 questions, but you got to do a significant number. There is absolutely no doubt. But where that number is, I can't.
Well, the other thing too, remember, it's all about allocating your resources, and time is such a valuable resource. So I think where Brian is, I think I probably disagrees with me, but I would agree with him on this. If you already own something intellectually, then there is no benefit in doing another 300 questions on it, right? So in that regard, that's why that performance tracker I think is so great.
It really is.
It makes you, then you're targeting the right spot. You're not wasting time going over stuff you already know, right? So thank you. Another Series 7 question. I have, when mutual fund distribute dividends, in most cases, would it be taxed at ordinary income tax rates? After holding for 60 days, would it be a capital gain rate? No. There are dividends that are called qualified dividends. And if you own the stock for 60 to 90 days before the record date, then it would be taxed at a lower rate. I think it's a very low probability question. The dividends in a mutual fund that get passed through to you are taxable, and they're taxable at ordinary income or qualified, depending on how long that mutual fund has had it. I don't think you'll see that at all on your Series 7. What you will see is that the mutual fund must pass through 90% of its net investment income. And what you will see that if you choose not to receive the dividends, you decide to reinvest them. That is called a dividend reinvestment program, a DRIP. And that is still going to be taxable to you, because as far as the IRS is concerned, you could have got the money, and that's the same as getting it. Brian, you want to add anything to that?
Nope, you got it. You hit it.
By the way, I would just add to that. I had somebody today, I don't mean to be, rude, but tough love. And this person asked a question. I go, why are you making the test harder than it actually is? There is no question like that to be found on test prep vendor material or on the test itself. So, they'll be making up your own stuff. Series 7, there you go. All right, woohoo! So what's next? What's your next testing victory? Is your next testing victory a 6? Is it a 7? What is your next testing victory? Well, there you go. Well, Trina, like I said, that's something to find out. I don't think the 69 there's no need to commit Harry Carey with a 69. That's a good mark. We can work with that. That I don't think means you have a major knowledge deficit. We just now got to improve. Trina, as I always say, inch by inch, practice tests are a cinch. Yard by yard, practice tests are hard. We just need to make incremental improvement. We don't need to go from a 69 to an 85. We just got to keep pushing up 2, 3, 4 points each time, and we'll be where we need to be. And people who get 69 still pass. As I said, I would like you to have a margin of safety. So there's no reason to panic with a 69.
So what was the performance tracker on that 69? What were the weak areas on that particular exam? That's the important question now to you, Trina.
There you go. She's done 2. So Brian's right. If you're using Kaplan has a performance tracker that tells you exactly where you're weak, and then you can go focus on that and then do it again. Well, they're using STC. Well, a couple things, Trina. I think STC has kind of a version of the performance tracker.
Yeah.
But Trina, if you use my Guru 15 discount code at checkout, you can get a Series 7 Kaplan Q Bank for $55.80. I think that's a wonderful investment, personally. I mean, I know not everybody has the resources, but if you have the resources, I think it's a great paid supplement. And then you will know you have that performance tracker. A lot of people buy the Kaplan Q Bank as a paid supplement, right? And then, as I told you, my other favorite paid supplement is our friend Brian. All the quiz, just take one exam each day and then remediate. There you go. There you go. Boom. Series 6. All right. Woo. If you did a good job on your SIE, it's going to pay big dividends on your Series 6. I mean, there's a lot of overlap. I almost think if you did a good job on the SIE, you could almost pass out of the 6 with a very little incremental work. So hopefully you did a good job on your SIE. South Carolina, 65 tomorrow. Maryland and taking the SIE. I've been following the explicate tests on channel, scoring over 70. But when I do my STCs, you're always scoring below 70. Well, again, no one really need to panic. I'm not sure when you're taking the SIE. But again, you can keep on working on that. I think I'll have an STC practice test probably Friday or Saturday. So take a look. We'll have another one for you. Again, I think those scores are fine. I don't know how far below 70 you are, but no need to panic. Just keep grinding.
For those who are taking the SIE, don't forget FINRA's practice final.
Absolutely. Glenn, you can watch me do the FINRA SIE practice exam on the channel. You can hit pause, then come up with your answer, hit play, and not only do I tell you what the answer is, I explicate it and tell you why the wrong answers are wrong. I also have a doppelganger version of it on the channel. What I mean by doppelganger is I took that exam, took their answer sets, and then changed the question. And so now it's the same answer set, but the correct answer is a different one offered to you. Both of those I think are pretty good. Brian's is there. Brian's has strong correlation. I wrote one myself. My exams are not diagnostic. They're just my way of sharing things. And so there's nothing in a practice exam the dean writes that isn't come from debrief. So those resources are pretty good. No reason to panic. Stay dedicated, stay disciplined, stay organized. You will be fine. Spokane, Washington. Not that it matters. There you go. That's Brian's neck of the woods. Spokane is on the other side of the Cascades, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So Washington's one of those states. It's a big place. It's a big place.
It's very big.
Hi, guys. As Dean knows, a past 63. Woohoo. Isaac, remember, he had that. We did a practice test together. It's on the channel. And then we thought he was going to pass the next day, and then he hit a glitch, and he had to wait. So 65, there you go. Biggest new thing is going to be investments. The Uniform Securities Act is the Uniform Securities Act. Still is. You're going to get tested on Isaac, but a little more depth on investment advisors and a lot more on investments itself. It was on yours next. Well, there you go. So I'll defer to you. But I think it's the jurisdiction thing and it's the 250. So hopefully we're able to help you on that. Series 7 Thursday, read the book, watched many of your videos, did Brian's course at least twice. What's tomorrow's last day study session look like? Keep your rhythm. So Greg, keep your rhythm. So that morning, maybe do some practice quizzes, light reading. Don't wear yourself out. You're going to fold up shop in the afternoon. Whatever you need to do to kind of take the edge off, put on your game face. I like a nice scotch, nice cigar, whatever that is, glass of wine for you. Go fishing, and let the test come to you, right? So you just want to guard your psyche tomorrow. Guard your psyche. Make sure you don't have any energy vampires. Brian, what about you? Any recommendations day before?
I like reviewing a couple of past practice finals and my class notes.
Yeah, there you go.
And I'm done.
Yeah, his class notes are excellent. I will link, Greg, I have a video called The Day Before Your Exam, and I will link to that in the video description, about things you might want to consider doing. Hi, coaches. Series 7 margin gave me a fit. What is the clarity between Reg T? Well, Reg T is set by the Federal Reserve Board, and it's 50% initially to be at risk. 25% is maintenance long. So once we're underway, every day, I'm going to take 25% of the market value and see if you have that in equity. If you don't, you're getting a maintenance call. 30% is maintenance short, 30% of the market value every day. I have to do it at the end of the day, but we typically do. I can do it anytime I want. House requirements can be different. So how do you know the difference? Roy, Reg T is the initial deposit necessary. So if you buy 1,000 shares at 40, that's 40 grand. Reg T is 20. 25% of the 40 is 10. That's minimum maintenance. If you sell short 1,000 shares at 50, that's $50,000. 30% of that's 15 grand, and that's what you need as a minimum in equity. I don't think you're going to get killed on margin. If you miss the 7 because of margin, I'm going to say you had other problems. I have a whole lecture called Don't Overdose on Margin. I think we're at the end of our time, Brian.
Yes.
And so let's see if we have anything else here. Sparto, I will see some of you in our live stream overtime session, which starts in about 15 minutes. It looks like we left a lot on the board here. I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, next Tuesday, I will stay over and we will run the live stream as long as necessary to get everybody taken care of. Tonight, unfortunately, we have to go because we have a 6% and 6 o'clock in time, and I have another session that's taking place in about 15 minutes. Okay, so Brian, what is the word of the day?
The word
for the drawing. Tropical. Okay, so if you want to participate in our drawing, put tropical just as Brian has on the board there, and we will spin the wheel of fortune. And if you come up, you win free office hours with yours truly, as well as any of the classes I have on the booking page, class of your choice. Let me now go find our wheel. Share a screen. All right. All right. Can you see the wheel of fortune?
Yep.
Okay, we ready? We got 17 entries, 18 entries.
Looking good.
So you win an office hour. Office hour, you can just register yourself. When it says notes, just put won the drawing, and you can register yourself in the office hour for paid students. Again, that's a $225 value because that's what I charge for tutoring. And you can pick a class of your choice, economics, mutual funds, basic options on Thursday, whatever you'd like. That I will have to actually manually put you into because it'll put up a paywall. 26, last call. 27.
Wow.
Big turnout, right? Big turnout. Okay, going once, going twice. Marcel, are you in there? Boy, I feel bad if you're in this drawing with Marcel because I can't fix the drawing. If Marcel's coming up, they're going to think I'm fixing it.
And the winner is
Christopher. So, Christopher, send me an email at dean@guruexamprep.com, dean@examprep.com, and I will know you're the winner. You have to do that within an hour of this session, and you can register yourself for the free office hour. You don't need me to do that for you. That will let you register for that. And there will be, whoop, that's not the right email. Hold on. Let's fix that. Boo, 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 boo. And you get on a class of your choice. And so send me that email. And we do this every Tuesday. Next Tuesday will be off grid at my off grid location. And boom, let's try that again. Save. Guru Exam Prep. There we go. All right. So, Christopher, you're the winner. There's Brian and I. So, remember, inch by inch, your exam's a cinch. Yard by yard, your exam is hard. And, Brian, you say?
Keep it simple. Stay with what you know. You take the test. Don't let the test take you.
All right, everybody. We'll see you next Tuesday, 5 p.m. I apologize. We didn't get to you. You can send me an email at explicationrequest@guruexamprep.com for any questions we didn't get to tonight, or you can use the Dean email, whatever you'd like. I'll see everybody next Tuesday. Bye-bye.